There was an old farmer. He was ragged, kind of barefoot, and he sat on the steps of his tumble-down shack, chewing on a piece of grass. He was passed and approached by a stranger who was searching for a cool drink of water. Wishing to start a conversation, get acquainted with the farmer, the stranger asked, "How is your cotton coming in this weather?" "Got none," replied the farmer. "Didn't you plant any?" asked the stranger. "No," said the farmer, afraid of weevils. "Well," asked the newcomer, "how is your corn?" "Didn't plant any," replied the man, "afraid there won't be any rain." "Well, what did you plant?" asked the puzzled man. "Nothing," said the farmer. "I just played it safe." When a church member was asked by St. Peter as he approached the pearly gates, how many seeds of faith, how many seeds of the gospel did he plant while he was on earth? He replied, "None. I just played it safe. I was afraid that some would think I was trying to show them I was better than they were. I didn't want to be called a hypocrite. Besides, St. Peter, I really didn't know all that I should have known about faith, about Jesus, about salvation. And come to think of it, isn't that what we pay the priest to do? Go out and plant those seeds of faith, invite people to come to our church." And tell me, St. Peter, as I'm looking beyond the gates, I see very few people moving about. And St. Peter replied, "Oh, that is easy. There were so few laborers, so few seeds that were sown, that the harvest was never taken in." As you can plainly tell this morning, our gospel lesson concerns a subject that we in mainline churches, that would be the Epistle Church, the Lutherans, the mainline Presbyterians, the United Methodist Church, others, we have not dealt with this in an effective way. Witnessing, telling others about Jesus Christ. The farmer wasn't willing to risk. He wasn't willing to take a chance, so it had no crop. He had no harvest. We seem to be afraid, maybe what others think. We aren't willing to risk. We aren't willing to plant a crop so that then there will be a harvest. We are afraid we don't have enough faith. We don't have knowledge. And then again, we don't see the task of witnessing as our responsibility. Surely it has to be someone else's job, not mine. But in our gospel lesson, Jesus sends out 70 people to heal, to preach, by saying, the kingdom of God has come near to you. Jesus sent out these 70 because he knew that everyone in the kingdom of God has the responsibility to witness to him. He knew he'd be leaving this earth, and the only way people would know and hear about his love for them, his sacrifice for them, his grace for them, would be for his disciples to tell others. So he sent them out to get a feeling for what they would be doing when he was gone. And notice, Jesus doesn't say that witnessing for him would be easy. He tells the disciples that they are like lambs in the midst of wolves. He tells them what to say when people accept them, and he also tells them what to say and do when people reject them. Jesus knew that not everyone was going to accept the good news. The important point is he wanted the disciples, the 70, not just those 12, but 70, to go out among the people and tell them about him. Theologian and pastor D.T. Niles wrote, evangelism is one beggar telling another beggar where to find food. We are all sinners, need the help of Jesus. We know the love Jesus has for us. We're being called to tell others about his saving grace in our lives. He wants us to share food, a friendly ear, and he wants us to tell others how heavy our faith, our love of Jesus has changed us, affected us. There's this little story about ants. A party of missionaries was sitting at tea one afternoon when suddenly an ant appeared on their white tablecloth, and it made its way to one of the tea plates, walked around it, finding nothing to eat there, made it straight for the sugar bowl. After eating some bits of sugar, it went off to another piece. The missionaries kept talking, but they were fascinated by this little ant, and so they kept watching. The ant went down the table leg, along the floor of the room, and disappeared underneath the door. Not long afterwards, it returned with several of its relations, climbed up the leg of the table, marched along the top, and the first ant led them to the sugar bowl. After they had eaten their fill of sugar, they all parted, each with a piece of sugar in its mouth. But that was not all. Presently, a swarm of ants arrived to partake of the same sweet food. And the missionaries were so intrigued that they let their ants have their fill. Jesus wants us to be like that first act. Because we have experienced the love of Christ in our lives, Jesus wants us to spread the good news. Bring one person, bring several people, and then that person goes and tells others, and growth happens. I recognize, as spreading the good news is much more difficult in these times because of COVID. Our fear of becoming hurt, both physically and mentally. These are not the good old days of door-to-door evangelism. And many people are hurting in so many ways that must, even though Christians, it must be difficult for them to feel the love of God. It must be hard for some to feel God's grace. So what we do is show that love. Shopping for someone, giving them gift cards to shop for themselves at the grocery store or at the local pharmacy, giving a gift card for gas so they can get to the doctor or go to work, calling them on the phone. General Charles Gordon, who served in the Crimean War and is buried in St. Paul's Cathedral in London, once told his soldiers, "Send me no more of your lukewarms." And Jesus is saying the same thing in our gospel lesson. He does not want lukewarm followers, but those who are willing to risk, to take a chance, to spread his saving grace out to the world. Are there lonely people who could use a visit, if not in person, because of COVID? A telephone call, a plant left on the doorstep, a note dropped at the door, a card with a prayer tucked inside. There is always a risk. There was the farmer who had spoke about at the beginning of the sermon, who was afraid to plant anything for fear it would not grow. But we need to risk. A man was all nice and clean and cooled off from a good swim. Then he saw a man with his two sons trying to push a disabled car up a hill on a hot and humid day. Two voices were coming at him from inside himself. There is an opportunity for you to become involved, to help to push. The second voice said, "No, that's none of your business. You get yourself all hot and dirty. Let them handle their own affair." I think we've all had both voices. But he yielded to the first voice, put his shoulder to the back of the car. The car moved and was able to start. The father said, "I am very glad you came along. You had just enough strength, every 2 hours, to make the thing go. We can do it together." have to be willing to risk so that others might have life full of God's grace. Amen.
Amen.